This is exactly what I do every single time I get paid, and in this video, I'm gonna be going over what to do the moment your paycheck hits, what accounts you need to open up, where you need to put your money, in what order, and how to make everything 10 times easier. I've created 6 simple steps to make this as easy as possible, so let's get right into it and start with step 1. Just like when you're going to a doctor, they take your height, your weight, maybe they do some blood work, they're looking for a baseline of your health. And with finance, it's no different, except instead of standing on a scale, you need to create a budget. Now, budgeting is one of those things that people just hate to do. They think it's tedious, time consuming, and they just overall don't want to do it. And this really explains why Americans making more than $100,000 a year are still living paycheck to paycheck. It doesn't matter at the end of the day how much money you're actually bringing in. If you're not keeping track of it and spending it all, you're gonna be broke. If you don't want that to be you, but you still hate budgeting, there's actually a really simple fix that can automate everything. Budgeting apps. I think the most popular is called YNAB, or You Need a Budget. Dave Ramsey also has an app called EveryDollar, and there's a ton of others, but the basic premise is that you link your accounts to these apps and they'll do all of the tracking for you on everything you spend, completely automated. Now, I personally don't use any budgeting apps. I like to use old school Google Sheets and enter all my transactions manually, which I know you might think is a ton of work, but in reality, it only takes me 5 minutes every day or every other day to input everything, and this allows me to be way more conscious of where my money's actually going and what I'm spending it on. And at the end of the day, it only takes 1 to 2 hours a month in total to do my budgeting for an entire month. Once you've got a budget, whether it's Google Sheets or an automated budgeting app, you now know where your money's going and you're ready to move on to step 2, which is actually the first place that we're gonna put your money. Paying for your minimum monthly debt payments and also your living expenses. This is everything from paying your mortgage so you don't lose your house, paying your car loan so your car doesn't get repoed, paying your student loans so they don't take back the information you already know. Maybe, just kidding, definitely pay your student loans. They'll come garnish your wages if you don't pay them. Okay, setting aside these payments alongside your other living expenses like food, water, insurance, basically anything else that you actually need to survive, will let us calculate your minimum monthly expenses. And because we created a budget in step 1, this should be pretty easy. Once you've got your expenses taken care of, it's time to move on to step 3, starting an emergency fund. Most people are going to recommend that you set aside between 3 and 6 months of your expenses. Remember, your expenses are the number that we just calculated in step 2. However, if you're running a business, you might want to set aside closer to 12 months because your income is a little less reliable. Not having an emergency fund is a mistake. I know when I started making a little bit of money, I was so excited to just start investing that I dumped all my money into the stock market, which was great at first. But then my check engine light came on and the mechanic told me it was going to be a $2,000 fix. I whipped out my phone, didn't have enough money in my bank account, so I went to my stock account and was forced to sell all my stocks for a loss because I needed the money at the time. And in reality, I should have just set aside an emergency fund and would have saved money. If you create an emergency fund first, it will 100% pay you back in the future. And with today's interest rates being 4 to 5% on high yield savings accounts, you can actually earn interest on your money while it sits there waiting for the next emergency. Now, in my opinion, you don't have to max out your entire emergency fund right now, but you should at least have $1,000 to $2,000 in there before moving on to step 4, which is contributing to your employer-sponsored retirement funds. The reason you're contributing to this account before paying off any debt is because if you have an employer match, you're basically getting 100% return on your money. You're contributing to your 401k, your employer is also matching a certain percent for free, as well as, depending on the account type, you might actually be getting a tax break. Now, while this is fantastic, and I think that most people should contribute to a 401k, I don't think that it's for everybody. When you're contributing to a retirement account, you're locking the money up for potentially 30 plus years. And for most people, this is actually a good thing because they would touch it, spend it, or just not have enough at retirement and end up relying on Social Security or forced to cut back on their life. But this is personal finance, and I don't think it's a one-size-fits-all answer. I know that most people are not going to agree with this, but in my personal case, if I worked a normal job and was offered a 401k, I probably wouldn't take it because I trust my own abilities to use the money today to invest into my business to make more money. But again, I have to stress that I wouldn't just go out and spend the money that's meant for retirement. And I still think that 90 to 95% of people should have a 401k and it's beneficial for them. And even if you want to start a business, unless you have an idea that's already working, proven, making money consistently and growing, I would just take the 401k. So now that you've maxed out your employer retirement match, it's time to move on to your credit card debt and other high interest rate debt. And remember before when I said I wouldn't max out and complete my emergency fund just yet? And that's because I'd want to prioritize any high interest debt that I had before maxing out my emergency fund. And I think this will make a little bit more sense with an example. Let's say you have $5,000 of expenses, meaning you should have $30,000 saved in your emergency fund, which is definitely going to take a while. You don't want to be paying high interest debt the entire time you're trying to save to your emergency fund. It's just going to slow you down. I think a great analogy for credit card debt or other high interest debt is like trying to run with a parachute on your back. Yeah, you can do it, but in the long run, you're way better off just taking some time in the beginning to cut off that parachute and then starting to run. Now with that, there's two common methods of paying everything off, starting with the avalanche method. This is mathematically and technically the best way to pay off debt. You're going to organize all of your debts by interest rate, and you're going to be paying off the highest interest rate first. When that one's paid off, you move to the next highest and the next highest. This is going to allow you to be charged the least amount of interest. And again, this is technically the fastest way to pay off debt and get charged the lowest amount of interest. Now, this sounds great, and in theory, it is the best method, but this is personal finance and we're not all robots, and that is where the snowball method comes in. This is where you line up all of your debts by the balance amount and you organize it from lowest balance to highest balance, and then you start paying off the lowest balance first, move on to the next lowest one and the next lowest one. With this method, you're going to get a quick win and feel more rewarded, and hopefully it's going to encourage you to continue paying off your debt. Even though the snowball method is technically slightly less efficient than the avalanche method, I think it's similar to going to the gym. If you want to lose weight and get shredded, technically the most efficient thing you could probably do is start going to the gym for 2 to 3 hours a day, 7 days a week, and start going today. But you'll probably burn out in 2 weeks. Instead, if you want more success in the long run, what you can do is start going to the gym once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week, or go for 15 minutes so you can still go to the gym and get a quick win. That way you can build your way up, and in the long run, you probably won't get burnt out and you'll be way more fit. Getting a quick win is super important to sticking with something, and if you don't know what method's best for you, honestly, I would probably just go with the snowball method. Now that you've cleared all of your credit card debt and other high interest rate debt, it's time to go back to maxing out your emergency fund, which is going to be so much faster now that you're not making all of these debt payments. Once you've got this done, it's time to move on to step 6, opening a Roth IRA and maxing out your retirement accounts. If you don't already know, a Roth IRA is an individual retirement account, meaning you don't need an employer to help you set it up like a 401k. You get to choose exactly what you invest in, and you can manage it at any time. You also contribute after-tax dollars, think money from your paycheck, and the maximum that you can contribute in 2024 is $7,000, but they're always raising it every year or two. And the best part is that you control all of the money you put in, all of the gains, all of the profit, tax-free. Once you've maxed out your Roth IRA, I would then go back and max out my 401k. And with the Roth IRA, even though you're only contributing a few $100 a month, you can almost guarantee that you will retire a millionaire with this one account alone. If you max out your Roth IRA from age 22, just after graduating college, to age 60, and they never raise the amount that you can contribute, which they do every couple years, assuming a conservative 8% return, you'll retire with over $1.5 million tax-free. To recap, if you made it this far, you started by looking for your financial baseline and creating a budget. This helped you find what your minimum monthly expenses were, and you set aside 3 to 12 months of those expenses into an emergency fund where you put it into a high yield savings account, hopefully earning around 4 to 5% interest. You then decided to get your employer match from your 401k, moved on to paying off all of your credit card debt and other high interest debt. You opened a Roth IRA, maxed it out, and then went back and maxed out your 401k. At this point, you're pretty much set up for success. You can sit back, relax, enjoy your life. Or, for the people that want to be a little bit more adventurous, there is one bonus step. Once you've gotten this far, you're no longer worried about having money in retirement, but probably want to retire early. And you could do something as simple as opening up a standard brokerage account, contributing to it, and retiring early off that. or something as advanced as starting a business and working for yourself or building something for yourself. And I don't think there's anything wrong with either choice. Not everybody needs to start a business. I personally find enjoyment from starting, creating a business and progressing towards something, but I'm not doing it to squeeze a few more pennies out of this. This is something that I actually genuinely enjoy, and it's not really working when I'm building something for myself. But if that's not you, you don't have to force it. You're already on the right path and you're setting yourself up for success. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, drop me a like and I'll see you guys in the next one.